Hi, I'm John Ferris, Entrepreneur Development Manager at Ulster Bank. Today we're going to talk about growth mindset and how that's a massive thing that every startup should think about.
So welcome to Profile 3 TV, and today we're joined by John Ferris, who's the Entrepreneur Development Manager at Ulster Bank. So tell us a little bit about what that is.
Well, yeah, it's a job title I'm not sure anyone really understands, so you're not alone there. Really, my role is working with entrepreneurs, and from that perspective, for me, it's about connections within the bank and out externally within our partners and our mentors and everyone who helps out with us. So that's, from an entrepreneurial perspective, when you need that help and support of getting in front of the right person, sometimes that's difficult. So getting the doors opened for you is the easiest way, and that's one of my main roles in the bank.
And of course, opening doors is not easy when you don't know the doors to open and who opens the doors, who's got the key. So, a very important job. So tell me a little bit about your past, because we were talking before. I was intrigued. So do tell me what you've done.
Yeah, so I have a weird career background. I started off as a coder and spent some time in Pittsburgh coding for a healthcare company that was actually had an office in the Falls Road, and spent about 6 months doing that. And I had been a coder from 11 years old on a Commodore 64, doing that sort of stuff way back in the day, and went through university and then had a job and realised, actually, now that I'm in the real world working in it, I don't like it. So it was yeah, been probably nearly 10 years doing coding in some shape or fashion at that point, from as a kid, nerdily doing it in my bedroom, to then taking a job in it, and very quickly realising it wasn't for me, and had come back home and trying to figure out what to do with life as a 22-year-old. And a newspaper had asked me to come and do some graphic design for a couple of days, and I took that couple of days and spent nearly 15 years there, by accident, I say. So I became the editor of a newspaper on that journey. Wasn't really the career path I expected when I started out, but I think journalism definitely gives you that insight into the everyday world of I am now, which is working with entrepreneurs, which can be radically different from 1 hour to the next, never mind one day to the next. So I think being in that newspaper industry where you do experience that a lot was a good test bed for me to kind of figure out how to do stuff today.
Amazing. Yeah, and obviously the media industry. So you've been in coding, and then the media industry, the newspaper. Oh my word! How many changes have they seen over the last?
Yeah, and I joined. Good Friday Agreement was pretty much one of the first things I was to cover as a journalist way back in the day in '98, and the change in that from even being involved in the newspaper industry at that point, of changing throughout the next decade and 15 years of how online overtook that and overtook print, and the decline in print sales and all those kinds of things was really interesting to see. From the inside, we were pushing to how can we change to be more digital. But again, it's one of those industries that as time has went on, it's becoming much more difficult for, I don't know how many young children now read newspapers, or young adults read newspapers these days, but it was an interesting industry to be in. And when I left that, then I went out and started a tech startup, which was equally as interesting, which was a Wi-Fi software business. That was fun. It was a good couple of years, 3 years working at that. But I think one of the things I've noticed in the past few years working with entrepreneurs is, if there's not that real passion and drive behind the idea, it is a struggle to keep going after a while. And in 3 years in, I realised that Wi-Fi software, which is probably anybody watching this is already glazing over at the thought of that, it didn't really excite me that much. And for me, it was time to move on to something else.
Incredible, excellent. And now you're helping startups. So what an experience! So you've had your own startup, been there as well, journalism, and through a career there, and what an industry has been impacted by the online world. And I had the pleasure of working in retail for 10 years and decided that I needed to go left as well. That I think this internet thing is going to be a big deal here.
Yeah, it's going to kick off at some point.
Yeah, move left. But now you're working with amazing businesses in Belfast. Have you seen many changes then over the last couple of years, and businesses coming in? Is it different variety, different sectors?
I think there's always that change. I mean, the one thing that brought me into this industry was I'd been on an accelerator previously with my own startup, and I think as I was figuring out that it wasn't really for me, that business, that the opportunity to work with other startups seemed really exciting, because for me, I still have that entrepreneurial drive in me, And for me, it was about getting on the other side of the table and understanding what make the startup work. And what was I not doing well enough in my last business that made it not work out for me. So for me, it was really getting into that industry of understanding what makes a great founder and what makes a great business, and understanding that from someone who wasn't necessarily in those businesses but was working with them day in, day out, and seeing that. And I think because our accelerator isn't specific in terms, it's not a tech accelerator, it's not a FinTech accelerator, it's an accelerator for any business that wants to grow, start growing and scale their business. So for me, that puts me in touch with a wide variety of businesses. So it is like the newspaper industry. You don't really know what's coming next. You know, every intake, you don't really know what kind of businesses you're going to get in. So we have a couple of ice cream businesses with us right now, as well as a load of tech startups. So there's that massive mix of all types of businesses that we work with, from food and drink businesses right through to the tech startups of this world. So it does keep you on your toes. You know, as a development manager who works with startups, you need to know a lot about a lot of things, which journalism helps you with, because it's that same kind of concept. You know, you're going to interview someone, you have to have a base level of understanding so that you know what to ask them and how to question them. So for me, it's the same thing with the accelerator side of things. You've got to know a lot about a lot of different businesses. Some of it I'd like to forget, but you know, it is that thing of so the businesses haven't necessarily changed, in that there's this steady flow of radically different types of businesses.
Amazing. That's incredible, just to have that variety as opposed to just one niche. So how does the accelerator work then? You do an intake a year, or is it multiple intakes?
Yeah, so we've an intake every 6 months, and people will stay with us for up to 18 months. So I'd like to say, I say 6 months, I say a day to 18 months, because we don't take anything from our entrepreneurs. Everything we do is free or fully funded, is the language we use now. So from my point of view, what we're trying to do is drive entrepreneurship. It's not about making money, it's about how do we create an entrepreneurial culture, both here in our Belfast location, and then we've one location in Cardiff, 2 in Scotland, and then another 8 in England. You know, so how do we create that drive and that entrepreneurial culture, not just here but across the water? And for me, it's about how do you keep consistently pushing those people. And part of that, so why I say a day to 18 months, is because that's not always for everyone. You know, our job isn't to put our arm around your shoulder and tell you you're great. You know, lots of our entrepreneurs are fantastic, and they've got mates and family and husbands and wives and parents who can tell them that. You know, our job's to get to the real challenge that they have and how do they fix it, as opposed to being too nice about it. So sometimes, as much as we say to everyone we're here to challenge you, everyone says that's for us until you challenge them. So sometimes that means that people do spend only a couple of weeks with us, because actually they've realised they don't want someone delving into the problems in the business, and it's not really for them. You know, so our job isn't to be there to be people's friends. Our job is to look at where a business is today, where do they want to get to, and what are the challenges in there. So I could dress it up in lots of technical language, but for me, you know, coming from the journalism background, it's about how do you simplify this down. Our job is, if an entrepreneur's here, they want to get to here, how do we clear the path when they get there? So it's kind of like having kids. It's not about doing everything for your kids, it's about getting them prepped when they're 18, 19, whatever age they leave home, that when they do leave home, that they've got the knowledge and the skills and the beliefs instilled in them, that they can go and stand on their own 2 feet. Yeah, they can come back when they need their washing done once in a while, or they haven't any cash, they want their dinner. You know, but it's the same thing with our entrepreneurs. You know, we need to build them up to the point where when they leave us, that they're ready for that next step, and they don't need help every single day of the week.
Yes, and I'm just thinking, you know, it can be so lonely as a business owner, or even a small team of owners, trying to figure it out on your own, and none of us know all the answers. So actually coming into an accelerator like yourselves, and then I'm amazed actually the different businesses. So it's not all tech, so you're learning from other industries as well, and we all learn every day.
And I think that's the collaboration side is fantastic. I mean, as much as I'd love to say entrepreneurs who join us all sing about how awesome I am and Matt and Gabby, the team are.
They don't.
They do sometimes, but what the number one thing people talk about is that like-minded people. Every other people who are going through the same journeys, the highs and lows, in different sectors and all that sort of stuff, but actually who understand what it's like this month when you're thinking, how am I going to pay my own mortgage this month because I don't know if I have any cash left. So being around other people who understand what the journey's like and understand when you're having a rubbish day that they can pick you up rather than bring you down further, and that's one of the key things. It's not necessarily about, it's great when you see accelerators that are focused on a specific area because there's people in there who will really delve into that area. But actually, part of the big challenge is that loneliness and that, what do I do when this happens? Most founders, as we both know, are plodding along going, right, another thing I don't know how to get over or I've never experienced before, right, what do I do here? So having other people who may have experienced that around you is fantastic, and it's not just 80 in Belfast every 6 months, that's 80 in Belfast and Edinburgh and Glasgow and Cardiff and London and Manchester. So that suddenly there's that massive family of people who may have been there and done something similar to you and can give you the benefit of their experience rather than it just being you in a room on your own.
Amazing. I'm just thinking, and the importance of networks as well, and meeting new people, incredible. And I can share the same. We moved in here. We were sharing an office with, there was maybe 5 other businesses. We've come in here and there's 50.
Yeah.
And just being in that environment and meeting new people all the time is incredible. And I can just imagine what's happening in the etc.
And we've had we've had wonderful things happen out of it that have just come from that probably would never have happened and had they not been in the same space. I mean, we had the world's first blockchain beer came out of our hub, and that was really just 2 different entrepreneurs in the same space just happened to have a conversation, and one was launching a beer. One was in blockchain, and they just done some stuff with the world's first blockchain, first whiskey put on the blockchain, and that led to a massive contract with a massive 400 store company that is now selling that beer. And that's 2 very different things. If you're a tech accelerator with someone working on blockchain and all those kinds of things, you may never come into contact with a food or drink company. So being in the same space, and I think probably the founder would say himself, they probably wouldn't be in Marks and Spencer's was it not for that blockchain element. And so I think that ability to have people who are very different in what they're doing and their approaches, but actually sometimes they come together to form really interesting tales that make a massive difference for those entrepreneurs.
Incredible. And stories like this, you realise the impact that an accelerator like yours can have. It's incredible. Excellent. So what does Ulster Bank then offer new businesses?
Yeah, so for us it's about challenge. Our job isn't to do things for people. If I wanted to run 80 companies every 6 months, I'm not sure my brain could handle it. I remember from running my own startup, the amount of things that are juggling in your head all the time is just madness. So if you take that and multiply that by 80, because for us, as much as you try not to, you get heavily involved in all these companies because they're people and you're working with the people every day. It's not about 80 startups or 80 entrepreneurs. It's 80 people and 80 businesses that you're working with that you get very heavily involved in. So there's a lot of stuff going on in your head around that, and that's always good for the brain to let go. Sometimes it's tough to let go sometimes from that, but it's really makes for an interesting life.
Amazing. No, and that's it. And then you've seen the bank grow then over the last couple of years.
Yeah, and I think like for me, I look back to when I was in a startup, and like our 3 main things we would work with people is the environment, and that is either the free office space for 18 months, or I would say it's more than the free office space. I would say it's the community of people who are there as opposed to having a desk. There's nothing wrong with having no rent or rates or light or printer costs or all that sort of thing for 18 months if you're just starting out in the journey. But actually that community of people who can help out when they need to or when you need them, and that's one element. The sort of power of our network, and I like to say, Dell Technologies are our tech partner, Pinson Masons are our legal partner, Deloitte are one of our partners, Equifax. If we don't have someone in amongst all those organisations who can't get you to where you want to get to in terms of an introduction or support or help, there's something wrong there. So for me, the power of that network is phenomenal. But I think when it comes into its own for us, and why we're probably different than a lot of accelerators, is that we would say we're focused on the person, the entrepreneurial leader, as opposed not that we're not focusing on the business, but we would always say that if you work on the entrepreneurial leader and work on them, that'll build someone who is going to be a future leader of whether it's that business or a different business. not everything that comes into us is a sustainable business. Sometimes our job is to make someone understand over 6 months that maybe it isn't viable, and that's not us saying that we don't think your business is going to work. What tends to happen is we think, it doesn't seem like it's a viable business, so our job isn't to say it's time to stop. Because if they're anything like me, I'd be very stubborn, and it would take me an extra 6 months to realise it was time to stop. Then, our job is to figure out why we think it's not going to work, and then challenge that entrepreneur around the bits that we think aren't going to work. So, for them to eventually come in and tell us that they think it's not a viable business, as opposed to us telling them. And that's the main thing that we work on, the mindset piece and the challenge and push on an entrepreneur. There's a lot of people will tell you what you want to hear, especially your friends and family. They don't want to tell you, I don't think that's a great product, or that doesn't make any sense. Our job is to challenge people on the things that, from our point of view, don't sound like they make sense, or that doesn't seem like the right direction to be taken. And that's not our job to tell you the direction to go. Our job is to challenge around, is that the right way to do it? And from a coaching perspective, as opposed to here's what you need to do. I think there's a lot of people who would, both locally and internationally and nationally, would say, oh, I'm an expert in startups, I'm going to tell you how to do this. Well, why don't you go and do it yourself then? So our job isn't to tell an entrepreneur this is what you need to do. Our job is to help coach that entrepreneur to figure out the answers themselves. And that's, that can be frustrating for an entrepreneur sometimes, because sometimes they do want to just come in and you just tell them the answer, and that's, sometimes the answer, and I think the challenge is we need to make sure that those entrepreneurs, when they leave us, are ready to do this on their own. They are the leader of the business. And I think one of the biggest challenges I've seen in the past 3.5 years doing this, and I'd say probably across our whole network of accelerators, is that mindset piece. As I said earlier, I went into journalism by accident, I guess. It was literally meant to be 2 days in North Belfast as a newspaper was starting. And then suddenly I found myself 4 or 5 years later being the editor of the paper. And I think for me, that imposter syndrome was something that a lot of us have here. And for me, I spent nearly 10 years thinking someone's going to find me out. I'm not really a journalist. I don't have a degree in journalism, but I'm the editor of a newspaper. And I think that kind of imposter syndrome is rife here with people. Not everybody will talk about that. Not everybody will admit that they feel like that. But for us, it's building those relationships with entrepreneurs so that at some point they will be comfortable enough to come in and sit down and talk to us about what are the real challenges that are keeping you from moving on to the next level. Sometimes they are simple challenges, like I don't know how to do B2B sales, or I don't know how to get my SEO sorted, or I don't know how to do whatever. A lot of the time it's the mindset piece that's the thing that's holding people back. And for me, that's the thing that we work on the most with people, is that kind of, because working on that will enable you to then work on your business better. So we can bring people in to talk about sales and all those things, and that's fine. But the mindset piece is the thing that we really delve into. What is actually holding you back as an entrepreneur? I remember as an entrepreneur myself actually not going to an event because I just literally thought, I don't feel like I actually run a business here. And that kind of thing can seem like a little minor thing to people, but actually it's a thing that a lot of people experience. And actually getting a room full of people where everyone realizes, oh, we're all thinking like that sometimes, is an eye opener, I think, for people, because you tend to think, I'm the only person questioning, should I be doing this? And it's not like having a job. It's not like, well, someone before you went, here's how you do this, this, and this, and this. So I think because you're constantly coming up with new things that you may never have experienced before, it's very easy to doubt yourself and go, am I the person to do this? Am I the person to lead this business? And I think if we work on that mindset piece with someone, that allows us to create credible CEOs who will go forward. And yes, they might decide this business doesn't work, but actually we'll get them skilled up enough to know that they can go out and do something else and create a new business. Or maybe they just need to go and take a job. Entrepreneurship isn't for everyone. We talked earlier before we came on camera about some food and drink stuff, and it feels to me sometimes like entrepreneurship right now is a little bit like food was maybe 10 years ago when Gordon Ramsay was at the height of the food TV stuff happening. And I think people think it's cool and glamorous and exciting, and it's not.
And easy.
Yeah, and easy. And it's full of very hard work and and long hours and self-doubt and figuring out how to do things that you've never done before. And I think for me, there's a lot of people that still think that it looks really simple and fun and cool, and it's not. So sometimes it is just getting someone to realise that maybe it's not for them, and getting them to realise it a lot quicker than they would have done on their own.
Amazing, amazing. And when you talk about the imposter syndrome, I was thinking, yeah, so there is room. So it's not just, as you say, we all have that. It's incredible. And I don't know if that's a local thing or do you think it's international, people
it's
everywhere?
I think it's that one of those interesting things that we have so many thoughts in our head every single day, and
Switch
it's,
off.
yeah, and it's the brain's way of not necessarily telling you one thing or the other. It's the brain's way of thinking through things. So you're kind of thinking through essentially how could this go, how could this go. So a lot of the times, actually, you take that and bring that into I don't know if I can do this. I remember pitching the Uber in London and having blagged my way in there, and then realizing on the flight over, oh, I actually have to now go in and pitch the Uber. And I'm thinking, well, I'm just this little startup based in Belfast, and so I think those things you kind of tend to forget that those things are in everyone's head really. And there's always a point that someone gets to, and can I really do this? and I think that's the thing, that by being around like-minded people, you start to realise that everyone has those times where they go, oh, God, is this for me?
Amazing. Panic.
And yeah, I think my favourite story is James Dyson, who said that it was a bit like when he was younger, he was a cross-country runner, and he said that for him it was the same as cross-country running. There was a point in a race where you could see that everyone in the field was starting to flag, and that was the point where they were hitting that sort of wall. And he went, that was the point where I knew I had to push harder and faster and go stronger than everyone else, because that's the point where that's the difference maker. And it's the same in entrepreneurship. You've got that point in life where you go, God, this is hard, and you've had so many knockbacks and things aren't going your way. And that's the time where a lot of people stop and go, right, it's time to give up. That's the point where actually just around the corner tends to be the bit where you go, whoa, something's happened and we're starting to get there. It's the same thing. And I think that's hard, because where is the line where you go, actually it's just time to stop, versus actually you just need to keep going and push and make sure that you give yourself as best an opportunity as you can.
Amazing. Very good. No, brilliant stories. And I'm thinking as well, we'd see that with clients who are building out the site, and we tell them to blog or produce content, and you see so many sites out there with 5 or 10 pieces of content on it, and as you say, they've started and done a little bit and then just give up. And it's just like, for the people who continue and go for it and just keep their head down and push and push and push, the results then can be incredible. But
it's hard work and graft is the reality. There's a fantastic clip of Will Smith way back in, I think, Fresh Prince days, really really grainy YouTube video if you want to look it up. But it's him on a chat show, and I think basically the gist of it is him saying, look, I'm not the best looking actor, I'm probably not the most skilled actor in terms of being an actor, but put me in a treadmill and I would rather die than lose to you. So it's that work ethic that's going to make me one of the best actors on the planet, because I would rather fall over in a heap than let someone beat me in terms of the work ethic. And I think that's what entrepreneurship is. It's if you've got an idea, that once you've done that early stage validation around is there a customer, and what value do they get from it, it is about that stamina and persistence. People talk about luck all the time. Actually, luck just comes from constantly keeping at it. It's you call it whatever you want. Some people call it luck. Some people say luck doesn't exist. Actually, the harder you work, that old phrase, the harder you work, the luckier you get. That's just through the hard work and the persistence, I think.
No, totally, and we share a lot of the same mindset there, I have to say. Because maybe it's because we've been through it, we've got the scars of it, but 100%, no, I totally agree. Like, I think you make your own luck. You ask 10 people, and okay, it may say no, but the 2 that say yes, it's gold. And we get knocked back from pitches all the time, but because we have so much going on, it's the other one. So you don't put your head down and sulk. You're looking at the next opportunity, and they're the ones that come in and just go and go and go. It's incredible, but amazing.
And I think entrepreneurs, when you first start up, you don't. No one tells you that actually the first thing you need to get used to is rejection. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, a quick no is much better than spending a year thinking someone's going to buy something from you. You know, and that rejection is something that we tend to, as people, to go, oh God, somebody's rejecting me. You know, get used to it and start getting the no as quickly as you can if it's going to be a no, and move on to someone you can actually turn into a yes. You know, I think that's the big thing that no one tells you when you get into it, is you've got to get ready for all these people telling you no.
You're not good enough.
Yeah, and but that drives into that then, that self sort of thinking about, geez, is this a great product or not? When you hear no, 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 you know, but that, you know, not everyone is going to buy your product, you know, and that's the reality. So you've got to just somehow get used to the fact that you're going to hear no from people.
Amazing. Excellent. I can see that mindset is obviously massive to what you've seen and happen in, I guess, your journey as well. So you think when you look at all the entrepreneurs who've went through the accelerator, there's a certain mindset that people have, or you can identify people by mindset, or is there a mindset that they should have?
Yeah, I think that anyone that's sort of read or watched anything from Carol Dweck on growth mindset, is at my levels. I much prefer the Sesame Street version of of their song. Is much more my level of thinking. But you know, the reality for me is, and there's been a lot of talk actually in the past 18 months about Dweck's work around growth mindset. And that's people misunderstanding the work and not really delving into it. Not someone reading a couple of hundred words rather than the whole stuff. You know, so there was a while there where people had this thing, you either had a growth mindset or you didn't. You know, you were one or the other. You know, and I think the reality is you can have a growth mindset in certain areas, and a growth mindset for me is just that understanding that you can change things by working harder. You know, one of the things we hear a lot from entrepreneurs is not very good at the numbers. You may not be. You could be if you wanted to. You know, that's about doing a wee bit of hard work to actually, you may not like it and you may not ever like it, you know, but that doesn't mean you can't be good enough at the numbers to know the stuff that you need to know as a business. And for me, that kind of difference between that growth and fixed mindset is just knowing that you can change things. That doesn't mean you have to change everything. Like, you know, it doesn't mean you can be the best at everything. I love American football. It doesn't mean I'm ever going to be an American football player. I have no illusions that that's ever going to happen. You know, I may be Bobby Boucher and the Water Boy, possibly, you know, but like that's never going to happen. You know, and that's not going to happen because I could put the work in, but you know, I'm a wee bit too old for that stuff now. You know, so it's about that growth mindset thing. Is what are the key things in the business that you need to work on, and around your mindset to make sure that you can move forward, as opposed to working on everything. You know, because every entrepreneur gets into it because they're really good at something. They're either really good at creating a product, they're really good at coding, they're really good at, you know, whatever that is. They're really good at one bit, and then they tend to ignore all the other bits that surround it that make a business. For me, it's like a pitch, and when someone's going for investment, for example, you can sort of tell straight away a really early stage founder who hasn't been through it before, because their pitch is all about the product or the service. 90% of it's about that, and the rest of it's about the businessy stuff that they don't want to talk about. Whereas an investor who's talking about putting in £500,000 or £1 million investment wants to hear the business. Yep, that wee bit about the product or the service is one element of it, but it's only one of like 10 or 12 elements. And all those things matter, and that's the bits that entrepreneurs tend to ignore because they aren't good at it, don't understand it, and so they'll bury their head in the sand about it. Like, from that growth mindset perspective, for me, it's just going, like, what do I need to understand around this bit to be better at that, or to be good enough at it for that to work for my business. So you don't need to be a fully fledged accountant to understand what numbers work for you in a business sense. You know, what are the key metrics you need to understand every month? Is that turnover? Is that, you know, whatever it is? Because if you're a SaaS business, it could be a very different set of metrics versus a retail product. You know, what do you need to understand around that, and how do you be better at that? You know, and that's not something that you can't do. You know, that's just about a bit of hard work around some of that stuff. And I think that difference between, you know, there was a couple of years there where people just thought you were either a growth mindset person or you weren't. You can tell fixed mindset people pretty quickly because everything's a problem. You know, you know, there's always it's always someone else's fault that it didn't work. You know, and for me, being the leader of a business or a leader of anything, a head of a department, you know, any leader has to take responsibility. And for me, when you hear someone blaming other people and everything, you know, that to me is that fixed mindset of, you know, it's out of my control, it's not my problem. And for me, that's where it becomes a problem. We're looking for entrepreneurs that we can challenge, and someone who blames everyone else on the things that go wrong. That's very hard to get to challenge them, because it'll always be this person's fault or this person's fault. As the CEO, even if you're a one person team, you're still the founder, CEO, whatever you want to call yourself. Whether you don't have you have a team or not, you're the person the buck stops with you. It doesn't matter what happens. You're the leader, and you've got to figure out how to get around it. No one's going to come and do it for you. And I think that's the difference for people when they've went from maybe working in a business for 10 years to starting a business, or maybe they've come out of university and doing it for the first time, is suddenly it's you and the focus is on you. You're the person that has to have the answers, and you don't always have them.
Amazing. I'm thinking you mentioned challenges early stage and finance, so I'm just wondering all of that. So have you seen then that maybe there's common mistakes or common problems people have in early stages around finance? Is that something you've noted?
I don't necessarily think it's around not that it's not around finance, because it's tough to get off the ground when you don't have any money. I mistakenly just left a job and went, we'll just go for it with zero cash behind it. So I've been there and made those mistakes. The biggest challenge I see in the startup scene here, and probably across the network, is not understanding, taking it right back to who is your customer and what value do you provide them. And everyone's trying to run a marathon and they haven't figured out how to crawl to the start line. And for me, it's about understanding that bit, and it's probably the hardest thing to get. It's like who are you making something for, or who's your service for, and why are they going to buy it from you other than over someone else? When you boil it down to the simplicity of business, if you know who your customer is, you know how to target them then, because you know what type of person they are, where they hang out, so do you need to use Google Ads versus Facebook, or do you need to use print advertising or buses, or unless you know who that customer is and really in depth, then how do you know how to market to them? And for me, people get so fixated on the later stage stuff without getting the basics right. And it's like, you all say, it's a bit like that QVC stuff. They're really good at telling you the value. They don't tell you, have a beach body by the summer. Yeah. So in your head you're going, when I'm going on holiday with my mates, it'll be great, I'll look amazing. Nobody tells you you're going to have to do 100 star jumps, 200 press ups, all that sort of stuff every morning for like 3 months. They tell you about what the outcome, that value that you're getting from it. They don't tell you all the rubbish until you've paid $49.99 a month, and suddenly you're going, oh God, I didn't realise it was this tough. And for me, there's so many people that don't do that, and they don't do it because they're fearful that people will tell them that's not the right product. Show me any great startup from today that started out as they are now. That's the reality. Groupon started out, what was their thing? That they sold 15 pizzas, and that was the bit that they thought, we've got something here. No startup that is really where it is today started out exactly what it was. And people are fearful of going out and asking those questions, because they think that they're going to hear someone saying, it's not great. That's what you need to hear, because they're the people who are going to spend money with you. And I think, whilst that's the hardest bit, which is easy to see why people will overlook it a wee bit, if you don't get that right, then everything else is wasting your time and your resource, because it is. How do you market to someone if you don't know who it is? Everyone's my customer. If I hear that again, unless this planet is starved of oxygen and you're the only manufacturer of oxygen, not everyone is your customer. That is the reality. Who is your biggest customer base? Like, who is that? And until you understand those things, like, all the other stuff you're doing is just going to be doing things that, like, I always look at it like the Simpsons movie where Cletus just walks into the wall and walks back and walks into it again and walks back. It's that reality is you're going to be really frustrated because you're trying to do things and you don't know who you're doing them for or why you're doing it. And all that stuff for me is, there's so many startups that can't really answer that question, and that's okay, but you need to go and figure out the answers to those questions before you are figuring out all the other stuff, because that's the thing that actually makes everything else a lot easier.
Amazing. I'm just thinking that when you think of all of the startups that you're talking about, I'm even thinking there's companies probably don't even know what that is. Never mind startups, I'm thinking, oh my word, there's probably some companies operating that they haven't asked themselves those questions. So, but again, I'm thinking that, people, founders who are in the product
Yeah.
fit, specialise in building products, especially tech people who don't have any business skills behind them, coming in, being asked these questions. How invaluable is it making people sit back and think? And you're right, we're all trying to run,
Yes.
but we have to start walking first.
And it's not about making someone look foolish or saying, "Oh, you don't know this." It's about, like, what do you not know right now, and how do we put some support around you to then figure out the answer to that. So, if it is, we sometimes will find founders who are in the tech space who know nothing about technology, and that's dangerous because you can then spend a lot of money on organisations you're paying to do the tech and you don't really understand it. So from our point of view is getting one of our tech mentors to actually sit down and talk through with you what it is you're trying to do, and making sure that you aren't spending 50,000 or £100,000 to create something that then again, like, if you create a tech product and you spent £100,000 developing it and you haven't talked to a customer, I can tell you now, I don't care what it is, you will be changing that tech product when it goes in front of customers. So people are fearful of that bit of going and questioning and understanding what a customer need is. But that's the bit that's going to mean the more of that you do, the easier it becomes later on when you are developing stuff. Because as a founder who did all the things wrong, we created a software product that had 300 different elements that did things. I'd say 6 or 7 of those things were used by our customers. But as a team of techies, we kept going, wouldn't it be fantastic if it did this, this, and this? That wasn't because anyone came and asked us to do that. That was us going, geez, wouldn't it be amazing if that happened? And I think you can be so bogged down in the detail of that stuff, is understand what a customer's need is. That's, if you've got a headache, you take a headache tablet. You take some paracetamol or whatever. If until you know what that problem that a customer has, that you've got the solution that's like a bit of paracetamol for them, that you're going to solve that, why would they spend any money with you? If it's not one of their biggest burning desires or challenges, we're all really, it's a world of busyness nowadays. So if it's not something that's really high up on a consumer or a business's priorities, the chances are you're probably not going to get anywhere with it. So those are the things that I think we sometimes forget about, because they are tough and it is challenging, because you are going to get not necessarily the no's, but yeah, that's not really right for me, or actually this bit would be better. And I think that's the bit that we need to focus on the most, and that's why it comes back to that mindset piece of being resilient and being able to take a no and understand that that's not a negative on you. It's every piece of feedback you're getting is another wee step closer to creating a product or service that people are going to pay for, rather than someone saying what you've done is crap. That's not what they're saying. And I think the more we can get the mindset piece that people are resilient to take that as feedback, as opposed to someone saying something negative about you, that's the thing that we need to focus on, I think.
Amazing, excellent. Amazing. I'm just thinking, wow, where were you when I was in my startup?
Where was I when I was?
But it's incredible. Again, people don't probably realise how valuable accelerators are. When you think, I'm getting a flavour of what happens in the questions, and I'm just thinking, wow, where was all this? Incredible. So how do you see the scene here in Northern Ireland? And do you think it's buoyant for startups? Do you think we've got a bright future?
I think we've got probably more support now for startups than we've had ever, like by a long way. And I think that sometimes that can be confusing for a startup. Sometimes, where do you go? What support do you take? How do you, what's the right thing for me? We have so much support now. Sometimes that can be overwhelming in itself for someone. And I think for me, one of the big things we need to make sure that we consistently do is, as a community in this space, is making sure that we direct people to the right place. If you're going to somewhere and it's too early for you, or it's too late, that's probably going to result in frustration for everyone. And I think there's so much support across the board that and there are those small number of people who get on the merry-go-round, and it's right, I've got 18 months of free space here, right, where do I go next to get my next free space? And or they're still 5 years in and still trying to figure out what their startup business is, and sometimes that part of the role in this across all accelerators and people who are involved in it is having those tough conversations with people around, is this right for you? If you've been on your 3rd or 4th accelerator and you've been going 6 or 7 years and you still haven't sold anything, there's something not right there, and sometimes that is someone maybe just hasn't had that conversation to say, do you think it's time to stop? And so I think we've a load of support out there for people. I look at my colleagues in Scotland, England, and Wales, and say, the likes of Techstart with your proof of concept grants and Invest NI and all Intertrade and all those organisations who can help in various different areas. And that's phenomenal for startups, but it also makes people reliant on things. And being in a startup for me is about not moving quickly, but moving leanly, or whatever way you want to put that. And sometimes if you're going, well, if I apply for this and in 6 months I might get this, what could you have done in those 6 months? Focus on how do you just get there in as lean a way as possible, and focus on getting there rather than where is my next pot of money coming from. And I suppose we've always had that culture here of where's the next grant coming from. And you know what? Say if a grant's falling in your lap and it's 50k or 100k or 10k, and it's the right time for the business, brilliant. Why not take it? But you get the odd person whose roadmap is based on, in 6 months I'm going to get this grant, and then 9 months later I'm going to get this grant, and then in 18 months I'm going to do this. If that's your business model, you're not really in the right industry. And I think that having all that support sometimes can be a challenge for people, because they get so focused on the where's my next pot of money coming from that's not going to allow me to. It doesn't mean I have to give away any of my business, as opposed to if you need to take money at a certain point to just really ramp up your business, like, take it. And if that's the right time to take it. And so we've got a lot of support, but also that can be a negative for people at the same time as well.
Yeah, amazing. And all of this, there's a opportunity cost with all this as well. Your mindset, you're focused on grant paperwork.
Yeah.
And you're twisting your business to fit a grant.
Yeah.
And the time, and you've paperwork to fill in. As you say, it's like you're chasing ghosts with some of this. So, no, very interesting. So, have you seen other challenges then that businesses would face here in the current climate again? Is there?
I think the big challenge is do some stuff. Don't talk about it. I look at, one of the reasons I got into this was to go, right, so when I go and start my own business again, my own startup, what will I have learned that will make me a better founder at that point? That's what I look at. What are the things that the people that I see that are great entrepreneurs that we're coming across, or what makes them brilliant versus someone else? And for me, that is about just grabbing it by the scruff and getting it done. That's not taking no for an answer. It's going, how do I find a way around that? And for me, there's only a small amount of people that I've come across. We've worked with 410, I think, startups in Belfast as it is, since we opened their doors. It's a huge amount of people. And I would say there's probably maybe 15, 20 people in that who really, really, really are fantastic entrepreneurs. And that's not to say the other ones aren't great entrepreneurs, but that's people who just, that drive and that ambition and that never stop attitude is always there. And you kind of can see that pretty quickly in someone. I mean, our application process is 8 minutes in front of us. That's it. Do your pitch for a minute, or tell us about your business in a minute. You've got 7 minutes of us throwing questions at you. And sometimes people go, that's way too short a time to, it's much shorter than this episode. When people go, that's not enough time to know what someone's like. We're not looking for people who are fantastic finished products. If they were at that point, why would they be talking to us? But you can see, like, I still remember, for example, Trimedica, who are just across the road from where we are now. I remember the day they walked in for their interview. I remember that as clear as day. And we had one of those interview days where we had a load of people in that you kind of, the head was dropping a bit because there wasn't anything that exciting or that drive. And those 8 minutes sitting in the room with Roisin and Julie from Trimedica, you come out and just go, yep, that's it. If you could dictionary definition of founders, take a wee picture, put them in, there you go. And I think there's that sort of drive that you can see in someone that has the ability and has the passion for it. And that mightn't always work out in the business, but they'll be successful. You know they have what it takes, and that's a hard thing to instill in someone, because it is about taking risks, And calculated entrepreneurship is just taking calculated risks. People think of it as risks. Actually, it's calculated risks. And it's about, if you need something, going and figuring out how to get that. It's about, if I use Trimedica as an example, they never go to an event where they haven't got a list of people that they want to meet at that event. And they're not going to leave that event until they've got in front of those people. So they're not going to stand in the corner and go, I don't know if I could just go up and interrupt that person. They're going to go up and go, I need to talk to that person. What I need right now is this introduction or this contact. And I think, if you're not used to networking and all those kind of things, you've got to get used to, if you need to meet someone, you just got to go and do it. This isn't you can stand in a room and hope that they come to you. You've got to make it happen. And I think for me, when you get a product or a business that you go, oh, that really is hitting the point of, it's a product that's really starting to gain traction right now, and the entrepreneur is great, the founder is great. For me, that kind of right time, right person, that gets me excited, because you go, right, there's a founder who can do this. And I think for me, that old thing of any day of the week, I'd rather take great founders and a mediocre product or service versus a fantastic product or idea and mediocre founders. If you've got great founders, they'll either find a way to make it work, or they'll find a way to end it and move on to something else. And I think that's, not everyone has that drive. Not everyone has the energy for that drive. That's the reality. But the people the Dysons of this world who just keep going. I think I remember him saying he made some weird wheelbarrow that nobody wanted, and you could easily go, oh God, I've tried another product that nobody wants and it's time to give up. The people those entrepreneurs that you listen to their stories. I mean, if you look at Dell Technologies, one of our partners, one of the top 10 and most biggest independently owned tech companies on the planet, started in his dorm room at university. So we all look at all these big tech companies and think, oh, look how amazing they are. Look, they all started in someone's bedroom or someone's dorm room, or with some guy with an idea on a scrap of paper somewhere, or some woman sitting going, oh, I wonder if we could do this. And I think the people who deliver in that are the people who don't stop. It's like the Terminator, that scene where he emerges up from the floor again, and the thing goes in the back of the car. It's that, you're going to get knocked down a hell of a lot. That's the constant. That's the thing that is going to happen. It's how do you deal with that in your own head? How do you go home at night and actually get some sleep, knowing you've had 5 rejections today, or 2 rejections, or the thing that you thought was going to be the biggest deal for your business ever, oh, it didn't work out. It's how do you get back up again and grab onto the back of the car again and keep going. They're the things that really make it.
Amazing. Trimedica, yeah, we know them very well. An amazing business, so and 2 incredible founders. So and another company that you've worked with. So wow. So I'm just thinking, if anyone's watching this, if they need to get in touch or interested in finding out more about the accelerator, how would they do that?
Just email me, or give me a call. John.Ferris@ulsterbank.com.
Yes.
Our applications are open for another week or so at this point, so I don't know when this will go out, but we have application drives are nearly always open these days. So ulsterbank.co.uk/accelerator. If the applications aren't open when you watch this, they'll be open. We'll take your details and we'll let you know when they are open again. But happy to talk to anyone. I mean, our role is how do we help drive entrepreneurship here. So always happy to talk to anyone and connect them up or figure out what we can do to help them.
Incredible, excellent. And what's the future then? What's the future for yourself then, and the accelerator? What's next on the horizon?
Well, I think this year later on in the year we'll hit our 10th intake in Belfast, which is incredible for me. It's been, it's a real privilege for us to be on the journey with people. We're just a bit part player in it for me. The people who are there doing the work day in day out and who are making the success of the companies are the real heroes there. We just are on the sidelines, kind of cheering them on and supporting them when they need it. Once in a while I'm on with the water bottle and squirting it in. So, but for me that's the thing that gets me up every day is working with people who are making a difference in the world, and who are creating fantastic products and services. Or so we've got a business with us right now who's turning food waste into fuel, and is about to pilot with one of the big food companies. That kind of thing's really exciting. And on the flip side, we have businesses like ice cream stores, like Nugaletto, that have just opened their 4th store. That joined us with 2 stores and had that vision of starting to grow within a year or so to have 4 stores and then 10 stores, and so they're the exciting things to be involved in. And for me, every 6 months it's a new batch of people that we work with around that. But I think the one thing that we're doing now that we haven't done, we've only started recently, is I suppose our pre-accelerator. And I think that's come back to what we talked about earlier about that knowing who your customer is and what the value is. I think across the country, having so many of those conversations with really early stage businesses made us realise that's something we need to work on. So we created this pre-accelerator model, which is a lot lighter touch for us than our accelerator model. So there isn't the office space, there isn't that side of it, there isn't the coaching and that side of it, but actually it's a half a day in with us where we will focus on the mindset and pitching and all those kinds of things, and then online content around how you then go and figure out how to talk to a customer to get not what you want them to tell you, not that they're going to come back and go, yeah, your product's brilliant. Of course I'd buy it. And then when you launch it, no one buys it. So how do you go and question people around getting the answer that you need to hear from them rather than what you want to hear, and figuring out who that customer is and what the value is. So we created that model that allows us to reach more people and allows us to get out of Belfast a bit as well. For example, we're our only accelerator in Northern Ireland. So it allows us then to, we've one in Derry in 2 months' time, I think, up at the university there. And so it allows us to get out of Belfast a bit and reach a wee bit further on, but also allows us to get those early stage businesses ready to be on the accelerator, whether it's us or someone else's. Those initial questions, those early stage things that you need to think about, they're the things that people need to understand. And for me, that pre-accelerator is really good for, especially if you're either working somewhere and you've got an idea and you think, I want to start something. It's an easy way to test out very quickly, is there something there with this idea, and then go, right, do I do something with this or not? So it kind of allows us to reach more people, and we'll probably do that with up to 500 people this year in Northern Ireland and possibly in the south as well. So it allows us to reach more people, but allows us to get them more prepped to either go, this isn't for me, or actually, right, I've a fair bit of work still to do, and take away some of those early pain points. So that's really exciting to reach more people. Yes, on a lighter way, but that for me is the thing that in the next year will be exciting to see how that rolls out and how much of a difference we can make with people around that.
Amazing. So busy couple of months ahead.
Yeah, it always is.
Incredible. But thank you very much for coming in, educating us all today, and reminding me of all these questions I need to be asking myself every couple of weeks, I think.
We'll get you on the accelerator someday.
I'll be kicked off in about two days, I'd say. But no, brilliant. Well, thank you for coming in and talking to us today. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Excellent. And thank you for watching. So make sure you check the links below this video and visit John and reach out to him and his team. And if you're here in Northern Ireland, maybe you should be thinking of the accelerator. But wow, what questions to ask you and your startup team. And hopefully you enjoyed the video. This is Kieran from Profile Tree. We're the content marketing agency here in the Innovation Factory in Belfast. And we'll see you in tomorrow's video. Thank you.